Core skills on the graphing. Once you've got it downloaded for Bi-variate, first thing you go is about, and that gets a kind of graph. We're always a scatter graph for this topic. And variable 1 and variable 2 are the two we used initially. Variable 1 is the explanatory variable, so the one that we think comes first. So I'm going to use CV, which is the valuation, and the next thing I'm going to use is the actual sale price. So current valuation along the bottom, sale prices. So you would expect that the valuation would have a direct impact on what something sells for, but you always put what comes first on the x-axis, explanatory, what's dependent on that, the response variable there. Just like the time series, we can change titles and that sort of thing, have upgrade graph, and it comes in. Other things we can do. We can split by a further variable. So variable 3, there's house information here by 2 suburbs. So I can split by that, and then I'll get them separated off into 2 different graphs. That can be helpful. I can also, and initially, this color by is more helpful, and so I can color by suburb. And there you can see there's a code. The red, the houses in red are in a suburb called Epsom, and the bluish ones are One Tree Hill. So you can see that the big money houses, this is quite old data, the big money houses are in Epsom. And so often colouring is helpful as a start, and then you might separate them by the same thing. Because you think, oh, there's something completely different going on in the 2 different suburbs, and the relationships are different. In the meantime, we'll leave that off and just work with the data together, and we'll just leave it like this. Other things that are important that you'll use for sure, regression line. This is a line of best fit that, using a straight line, models the pattern that we see, or the relationship between the 2 variables. Up the top here, you've got an equation, and we'll spend a bit of time with them. So sale price equals 1.2 or 1.3 lots of the valuation plus another 9,500. That's what that's saying, and we have to be able to translate that into the context, and we have to use it also to make predictions. The other thing that we might use later on, we might use some of these other models. The quadratic one is the most likely. But in this case, it looks much like the straight line, so you wouldn't bother. You'd go, because a straight line is an easier equation to work with. Point labels is handy, because if we want to identify, we say, oh, well, that house sold for a truckload of money. What do we know about that? If you put the point labels on, and you can go up here, you say, all right, well, that's number 37, and then at the same time, it's highlighted over here. And so we can say, all right, that's Epsom. We can see any details that we've got about that. So the point labels are handy. So those are the main key things that we use when we're using NZgraphers. Getting into this topic anyway, there's a little bit more in terms of sample and more like the time series that we'll get into later.